This is the 8th session in our series on the 7 Factors of Enlightenment. And in this session, we will explore the 7th factor, equanimity. If you recall from the first session, which was an introduction and overview of the 7 factors, I mentioned that equanimity is highlighted and very, very important for many formulations of Dharma practice in all of Buddhist teachings. In the deeper stages of samadhi, concentration, there are stages called jhana, and in the 4th jhana, equanimity is highlighted and given a lot of prominence and emphasis. In the 4 Brahmaviharas, the Brahmaviharas are these beautiful qualities of developing a loving heart. The first being metta, loving kindness, the next compassion, then what's called empathetic joy, which is taking happiness at the happiness of others, and then the 4th element, equanimity. And then here we are again with the 7 factors culminating in equanimity. So we can see that one way you could think of the goal or the culmination of all of Dharma practice is in the deepening of equanimity. If you recall also from the first session, I mentioned that there are different ways we can think about the 7 factors. One is just a bare list of qualities that all come to play in different combinations at different times. They may manifest, some of them stronger than others, some are weaker, and then we can be aware of that and bring in or work on the ones that need more development. Another way that it's commonly thought of is a progression, and we've been working through the list as a progression, and that way of thinking, it culminates in equanimity. But I would say, regardless, or in whatever way you think of the 7 factors, culminating in equanimity, I think, is a good way to think about this. And the other factors are in support of that. So equanimity, what is it? Well, we all know what the word equanimity means, but there are a couple of ways I want to point out that it can be understood and experienced. One of the ways is that it's called equanimity of feeling. And what that means is that difficulties, challenges, reactivity just doesn't arise very much. So our mind is naturally more balanced. So that can be because we've steadied the mind through the samadhi and through the mindfulness and the insight work and in developing a good heart. When certain things happen that perhaps in the past were quite challenging for us, and I'm sure anyone who's practiced, been a Dharma practitioner or meditator for any length of time, you can look into your own life and see there are elements, there are areas in life that have improved or better, that you suffer a lot less around. Maybe it's just this one thing that we can look to and say, life is better around this issue in relationship to whatever this thing is. That's an example where certain things that might happen, either your inner experience or just things in your life around you that you experience that maybe used to trigger you off, now they can happen and you'll still want to respond to them in a wise and skillful way, but you may not fall into the reactivity, the automatic habitual reactivity. And so that's a way where life just feels smoother because how we respond to things. So the difficulties just aren't there so much. Equanimity of feeling. There's another way we think of equanimity that is, I think it's similar, but it actually adds an element. And that is, our equanimity is not dependent upon having or not having any kind of experience. I think for all of us, we still will have our limits, or what I call our learning edges, where certain things can happen that might be challenging or difficult, where we do fall into the reactivity. There's some stress or some discomfort, some difficulty around whatever's going on. And yes, we do develop the tools to be able to let go and smooth that out. We always want to have those in our toolkit. But there will also be times when um, we bring everything we know to do to work with some challenge, and perhaps it's not enough, and we still are there with the difficulty. And so the equanimity is a sense of just allowing, finding our inner peace or the place of inner stability or balance, even in the midst of when maybe the storm clouds of your mind are still coming through. But underneath it, there's a place that meets all the ups and downs, even when they are strong, with a balanced mind. I remember a time being on a very, very long retreat, and I was some months into this. And of course, in daily life, you can access these deep states of meditation, but also, of course, in the retreat context is where a lot of people are able to touch into these places. And so I'd had the support of a lot of deep meditation. And of course, these deep meditative states have their place and they're important and certainly have a value. But more than that, I remember one day when I finally realized I was more interested in how I'm relating with whatever's happening in my experience than I was in these pleasant states, maybe than I was in my bliss. And that when I finally realized that, it was quite liberating, quite freeing. Because even in those contexts, there can be still ups and downs in practice and difficulties can arise. And so that's a question around equanimity. We start to learn, we start to shift how we're looking or how we're seeking our, you could say, your happiness, or where you're looking for your well-being. And most of just what human beings do is it's tied up in the nature of the experience, right? We want to have more, pleasant, good experiences and less difficult experiences. And that's fine. I think we'll continue to do that. But if our happiness or well-being is tied up only in having or not having certain experiences, then it's kind of a tenuous, or I would say a fragile kind of well-being, because it's at the effect of circumstances. And again, I don't know if we'll ever get to the point where we're completely beyond all of that, but we can improve it a lot. And we can get to a place where we start to add in the piece where we still want to take care of ourselves. We still want to change the circumstances when we need to, if we're fortunate enough to be able to. And of course, we don't always have that choice, and then we have to work with it the best we can. So we'll always keep that part, but we want to add in a piece where can we start to let our well-being be more about how am I relating with what's ever going on? That's kind of the equanimity. And we learn more and more to bring a place of allowing and letting be, right? And so the more we can do that, that's the place of equanimity. And that includes letting be the places where, and allowing the places where sometimes we haven't found the way yet. We haven't found the key to sort of unlock where we're stuck. And sometimes we're aware of what's happening even. There's the kind of suffering that comes when we're just lost and caught up in things, and we don't have our mindfulness, so we're conscious, but we don't really know what's happening because we're just lost, caught up in it. And then there's the time, and so then you're just at the effect of just however you happen to respond or react in an unconscious way. When we know what's happening, when we kind of wake up in the middle of our experience to be more mindful. If we're angry, we know we're angry. That sometimes isn't enough because the power of the energy of it may still be strong enough that it still pulls us, but it starts to give us a better chance to at least have some choice points. At least we can try the best we can. Sometimes that's not enough for it to let go, and we still know what's happening. And then that's where we bring in this aspect of equanimity, which says, okay, can I find a way to just be with, how is it? What's it like to be with a closed heart, a reactive mind that's suffering? And it may be during those times we have to find a way to let that be until we're either ready or able or found the way to let go around it, or it naturally subsides. So that's kind of the way we can work with it. Equanimity is both the result, or you could say the fruit, of all this practice we do, but it also is the path of practice itself in the way I'm just speaking about it, right? The more we develop these other factors in the 7 factors, the investigation, the right amount of effort, all the samadhi and concentration that we talked about, the mindfulness, all these different elements, the more we strengthen them, it naturally kind of has a purifying effect that we may not always notice, but it does over time work on us and kind of clean us out in a way where, again, we have more of the equanimity of feeling is there more, just naturally, but also it brings us these tools so we have not only the awareness of what happens more of the time. You know, it's not that you'll never space out, but I think most people who are meditators find over time that the mindful awareness of what's happening and the clear knowing, we spoke about this term, clearly aware or clear comprehension or clear knowing that goes right along with the mindfulness, is there more. So you tend to space out and get lost much less. And the times that you do, you're much less deeply lost. So you come back more quickly. So these are the tools we have so we can be more present and awake to what's happening. And then hopefully we want to stay aware and let our present moment experience inform us, right? So when difficulties come up, it's not that something's going wrong. It's actually teaching us. It's showing us, oh, here's an area in my life where there are challenges. Things are still difficult. And so we don't have to judge ourselves or beat ourselves up or think we're doing something wrong. We can just know, here's an area where perhaps more cultivation is needed over time, or more just compassion for myself is needed, or compassion for others. So we let the present moment teach us. And in this way, we can start to bring in the equanimity, again, as a fruit of practice, but also as the path of practice itself.